Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. I just want to say a very quick thank you to everybody who's been commenting and sharing and liking and everything on my videos. You're really helping out and growing the channel, and it's very appreciated. And we are slowly grinding up to that 10,000 subscribers like I'm trying to aim for, where I'll be doing a small giveaway. Anyway, onto the video today. We're going to be looking at Raj, an ancient epic. Now, as you can see, we've got some of the beginning of the game here rolling at the start, and it starts off setting the scene, and they do this opening cutscene here. It's like people that are silhouettes, and it's like puppets, and it's a very nice art style. There's an Indian voiceover setting the story in the background of the characters. It takes like 5 minutes for this opening scene to finish, so we'll jump forward a bit because let's get into some of the gameplay. So, one thing I noticed straight off the bat when starting this was that there was no difficulty settings, which I always think, this day and age, not having any difficulty settings is a little bit bizarre. And as I was playing through the tutorial, even in the tutorial parts, they'd teach you how to do something, and then they'd throw a baddie at you to try and defeat, and I'd die still over and over again, which was a little bit painful, but you then got used to the different moves. But later on in the game, that kind of got a bit annoying because it made the story not progress as quickly as I'd like it to have done. And the story's good because, well, it helps you understand the Indian mythology and that type of stuff, which is I do think was good. But I did find some of the battle areas somewhat frustrating when I kept dying over and over and over again. It felt a little bit like they was hard for no reason, so to speak. However, the trickiness aside, the tutorial at the beginning is quite lengthy. Even right into like an hour, it was still teaching you like your secondary weapon and skills and how to use all of those. And one of the things I do want to mention, though, that is there is so many different moves you can pull off that you're trying to remember a whole list of these different moves and you can't remember them all. And one of them is like pressing B and X at the same time, which is near nigh impossible on a Joy-Con. Like, you end up hitting all 4 buttons, so that just didn't work. But the attacks range from light attacks to overly heavy attacks to really stylized crazy spells which fill up the screen with bright and colorful colors all over the place. But yeah, I mean, there's probably way too many different moves you can pull off, from running up the walls and spinning around and jumping around like a loon. Like, it just didn't. There was too much, and to me, it just felt like I don't want to remember all these things. I just want to crack on with it. You know what I mean? But the dying, it was a bit annoying, and that's when I was like, I really wish this game had an easier setting, so to speak, especially as, like, when you look into it, the stories they're trying to tell in this game are ones in which, like, younger children and teens maybe grew up in India, having read to them or knowing, and I can see some families wanting to probably play this game and with their child, or their child wanting, like a 7 or 8 year old wanting to play this, and it being too hard for them. And that's a bit annoying because you can tell the stories that the story's trying to stay probably true to what is been taught to Indian children of a young age. Because I did go and read up on this game as well, because obviously I don't know anything of the background of Indian mythology and culture that much. So I mean, I wanted to go and see about that. which leads me on to the next part of the review, which is to do with the music. The music in the game really feels quite authentic sounding. Like, it kind of made me feel like I was sat in an Indian takeaway waiting for my food to come, which is, quite fitting as it's an Indian themed game, funnily enough. So, yeah, the music is very good in the game. I did like that. But some of the weaponry, when you're like fighting, the sounds of the weapons sound the same, and even if you're in an outside place or an inside place, the sound identical, whether you'd expect it to probably be echoing inside an area, or if you're outside it wouldn't be. Like, there was none of that, it just was the same sounds again, so that was a little bit like, oh, okay. The gameplay parts, which are not the battling and the fighting, etc., where you're going from point A to point B in battles, remind me an awful lot of the original game, Prince of Persia, on the PC or Amiga, which has you running up walls and jumping up like ledges and round corners and such. And you can shimmy from left to right, and it's very, very reminiscent of the old versions of the Prince of Persia games. However, even with that said, like, those areas, I died sometimes because it just didn't seem to respond to what I was doing. Like, I'd do what I'm supposed to do, and I'd still fall to the floor, dying. So, like, there must be some type of glitch going on there, which is a bit of a pain. I really do think the game would benefit from an easier mode, or maybe a mode where you don't need to remember a dictionary of different movesets to be fighting all the baddies off. Maybe dumbing down some of the baddies, and maybe limiting the array of moves that you need to be able to use to play the game. However, moving on, the graphics in the game are very solid, because the game generally is a fixed camera angle, or it's panning slightly as you're going around a corner. So the colours and the graphics in the game generally are very, very solid. And like I said, when you're pulling off the spell moves and everything, it looks colourfully amazing. Some of the scenery and artwork in the game is breathtakingly beautiful, really. And apart from the odd few frame rate drop issues or stuttering in places, it seemed to play quite well. Those frame rate issues are probably more down to the Switch, in all fairness, which is a bit of a shame. And another thing which is a bugbear with the Switch is, if you're playing this game in portable mode, you can hardly see your character in some places, and because of the fixed camera angle, like, you can't kind of see where you need to go sometimes. Like, there'll be a corridor or a doorway or an alley, but because you're at a complete fixed angle, you can't see where the alley is, so it's completely hidden. And there's no pointer. You could be standing there for like 3 or 4 minutes and be like, well, where the hell am I supposed to go? So that was a bit annoying. Like I said, there is some frame rate issues, and not even necessarily when there's an awful lot of like enemies on screen. There can sometimes be frame rate issues purely just by running around an area, and it's like, why have we got a frame lag here? Like, I don't know. One thing to mention also is that the load screens seem to take a absolute eternity. You'll be going from one area to another, and it just seems to, when it does do loading, it seems to take forever, which again could be down to the Switch. The game has like an orb system where you can upgrade parts of your weaponry and skill set, which is quite nice. However, there is no collectibles in the game, which I feel could have added a nice extra to the game, where you like maybe collect scrolls and it told you some history or background of the story or something that they could have added in extra, which didn't necessarily need to be all they could have added in these things where it gave you extra information, which I thought would have been quite nice. Furthermore, there's puzzles in the game, but those puzzles generally seem to be quite easy at times, but you'll be doing them and they're like twist puzzles or turny puzzles where you're trying to fit things together to make a pillar or an image or something. And although you think, oh, I've got it perfectly right, and you've probably had it in that position 6 times and nothing happens, but then all of a sudden it'll work. And I think the reasoning for this is because these puzzles are put in places on purposely to hide from loading going on in the background, more than it being a puzzle required to actually do anything. It's like all this puzzle's doing is making me do something whilst it's loading a chunk of cutscene, and the puzzle's not difficult, but it's not probably finishing it because it's not finished loading. So it's a bit of a pain. One thing I do want to mention though is I want to be, although there is a few of these issues, and I think, they can all be ironed out probably with a patch or two or something, we do need to take into consideration that this is the studio's first ever game that they've made. So although there are these few issues here and there, and the odd performance issue, for a studio's first game, I can kind of expect that. And some of those performance issues are because they are on the Switch. Like when this comes out later on the PC, on Steam or PS4 and Xbox One, I can see this game not having any of these graphical issues, not having any of the frame rate issues, and that they might have included some extras in there, like being able to change the difficulty setting. And that for me would be a lot better. And when you're fitting this game to other when you're bringing this game to other devices, I think that would be a good extra to put in there, especially for my reference in there, that I think this game could be really well suited to maybe families with children that they want to do this story with, or maybe just even somebody like myself who wanted to learn a little bit of the background. I was really curious with the game, and I did think it looked very good when I first saw it at the Indie World presentation. So I mean, for me, I pretty much, this game did not take very long to complete, let's just say that. And I feel that once I started to get really used to the difficulty, I ploughed through areas without really trying towards the end of the game. But I think the difficulty at the beginning is way too high. So maybe, the difficulty spike at the beginning goes up too quickly and then just stays there. And it's like, well, now there's not much progression in the difficulty either. So, it just didn't fit well for me. There needs to be a gradual progression in difficulty, not here's a tutorial, bam, you're straight into something that's hard. So that was a bit. So for the cost to value, it's not really there. It's quite expensive for the amount of playability you're going to get from this game, especially as there's no collectibles, there's no extras, there's no difficulty setting. You can't have played it on easy and then go, I'll give it a go on hard, because there is no difficulty settings. So and there's no collectibles of little trinkets or anything for you to go around collecting or anything. And that there's these large blank areas where you're walking from one battle scene to an area, or from an area to a puzzle for another cutscene to load, and it's just running around, jumping up walls, no collecting of anything. Whereas I think they could have probably put some breaks in those running around parts where you could have been picking up things or collectibles or other things than just running up a wall, running down a corridor, shimmying across there, dropping down. It was all a bit and there was nothing extra there. One thing I do want to say with this game is that I was playing a chunk of it and I was thinking, oh, like, I've changed different area a few times and I picked up a couple of other weapons and learnt the moves, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder how long this game lasts. So I popped online and took a look, and a lot of people say you can complete the game in around about 5 hours, which to me, after I've probably played about 2.5, an hour of that is the tutorial. I think calling it Raji Ancient Epic is a bit of a stretch to call it an epic when you can possibly complete the game in only 5 hours. And an hour of that is the tutorial. I can see people doing speedruns of this game and knocking through the thing in like 3 hours. So I think the word epic is a little bit of a stretch for me. And 5 hours for the fact that this game costs what it does, it's a bit high. I think most people would be probably happier paying £10 for this. It does seem a bit steep on the cost side of things for myself. And yeah, the name Epic certainly isn't fitting to the game's longevity. A studio's first ever game. I do think it's very good. And let's just go for the key points of the review that I'll take away from this. It's the studio's first ever game. It's lacking in some features. The graphic style looks absolutely beautiful. The music seems authentic to the setting and game. The controls, though, can be a bit annoying, and battles can be frustrating at times. I give this game a 6 out of 10. I think if you're curious about this game from Indie World, then you should definitely give it a go, and maybe when it's on sale or something, it's definitely worth picking up. Or I'd probably be waiting for it to drop on other platforms, and the studio might have ironed out some of the issues in the game. But yeah, I give this a 6 out of 10. Yeah, 6 out of 10. So if you enjoyed my overview of this game and review, or would like to give me any tips about what other things you'd like me to be telling you about games in the future, and how I'm doing this, please leave a comment down below. And if you enjoyed this, please give it a like, and if you're new around here, please subscribe. We are on the grind to 10,000 subscribers, and all those shares and everything that people are doing, and all my new subscribers, I'm really grateful for all of you. And like I said, I do want to improve with all my reviews, and I'm an independent one person on my own, trying to help people out to decide whether to buy a game or not. And I've been playing games for literally years and years on end, so I can really tell when a game is, good. So yeah, if you're new around here, please subscribe, and hopefully I'll be seeing you on the next one.